I'd like to talk to you about colour. It is such a grey, horrible day here in the UK. It's chucking it down. It's really miserable, and I have been playing about in my sketchbook, really just going a little bit bananas with colour, just being seduced by colour, exploring colour, experimenting with colour. So I thought it might be a good opportunity just to take you inside my sketchbook and have a little chat about colour and how I make decisions about colour and some of the things I think about when I'm building up a page. This is inside my sketchbook, and I thought that this might be a really good place to chat to you about colour and my colour choices and how I like to experiment and play and really just try out different colour combinations to see the combinations which I enjoy and love and relish. Now, this sketchbook fairly much started off as a response to a walk home from the train station. And I took some photographs on that walk, and I was gathering shapes, interesting things that I'd seen on my walk and incorporating them into these abstract pages. And then what happened is I've sort of nudged those along. So I started off just with black and white, then I was playing with some paint, then I went back to black and white, I think, and was just thinking about compositions and the things I enjoyed and like. I really love these kind of strings of drips, these big stripy triangle shapes, these curves. So I was starting in black and white, and then I moved on to colour. And this wasn't conscious. I wasn't consciously thinking I'm going to experiment with these black and white compositions and then I'm going to try colour. It just is often the way I find working in a sketchbook. You come to create something, and everything else that's in the book, everything else that's in the sketchbook informs what comes next. So it's a lovely progression, and that's one of the things I really enjoy about working in a sketchbook. And I have made these pages, lots of these pages, from felt tip pen. So the colour choices were slightly limited, and the materials that you use inform what you make. So using felt tip pens means that the colours were going to be bright and bold and not really muted and delicate. So you can see I've just gone colour crazy. What I wanted to talk about though is how I build up and select the colours. So I'm not starting a page like this with a clear idea of where it's going. I will start, and then I will look at the page as a whole and think, what does this need? And I'm always thinking about the dance between variety and unity. So if I explain that in terms of colour, if I look at a page and think it's looking really confused and like a total jumble sale, it's because I've got too much variety and not enough unity. And often if I look at a page and I think, gosh, that's really boring, it's probably because I've got too much unity and not enough variety. So it needs some difference. So there's always this dance between finding something visually interesting and exciting and maybe haven't gone too far and just making it look like a mess, which is a constant issue and challenge in my life because I'm a maximalist and I love more. But in terms of unity, what I've done with these initial pages is, if you see this kind of turquoisey teal colour, that is the building block of the composition. And it's here, 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 and it's here. And so that is bringing this piece some unity, because I've got some colour consistency going right across. So I tend to start with these big compositional pieces, and then I tend to add, and at each point where I'm adding, I've changed how it looks, and then I might need to add something else to make it feel more exciting, or take away some of the colour variety because it's looking really confused. So I'll show you how a page like this actually would start. So it would start like this. So here I have just got one layer of colour felt tip pen. I've kind of mapped out a composition, and then what I'll do is I'll come in and I'll add more colours and more detail. And at every point I'm thinking, does this feel like a cohesive whole? Does it feel like it's working in unity? But has it also got enough surprise and delight in it? And so in terms of colour, I'm thinking about opposites, contrasting colours. So my colour preference is very much for high contrast. So I'm often using a blue and an orange, a red and a green. So the colours that are opposite each other on the colour wheel, which when you put them together really sing, because they are the most high contrast colours. I'm also thinking about light and dark. So some of these pages I think are not as successful, because I think this page, maybe this page isn't as successful because there isn't enough light in it. I like dark darks and bright lights, and I'll probably stick something else into this page because I feel like it needs something a bit lighter. So the only real kind of light areas are here and here, and I feel like if I added something white, it would probably make the whole composition just feel more pleasing. So I'm thinking about dark and light. So here I've got this white, these really dark colours here. So I'm thinking about light and dark. I'm also thinking about really powerful saturated colours and more muted colours. So although I love all the high density colours, the brights, the bolds, they need to have a little counterbalance. So I've actually got quite a lot of grey in this piece. And if you looked at it, I don't think you would say this page had a lot of grey in it, but there's some pale grey here, here, which is just bringing a counterbalance to all that really bright colours, and I think making it feel a little bit more nuanced and a little bit less childish. And particularly as I'm working in felt tip pens, I mean, it could look really childish, couldn't it? But that's what I'm thinking about in terms of colour. I'm thinking as a whole, I'm thinking about unity and variety. And so for example, this red dot here really adds something. If I took that red dot away, it wouldn't feel as exciting, and that's because this red is sat next to this green. And every time you add something, it changes the whole composition, so you have to kind of relook at it again. And I'm obviously here halfway through taking down this yellow colour and going over it with brown. So I think I thought it was too highly saturated, and I wanted maybe these teal colours to sing, and so I wanted the colour that sat next to it to be a little bit more subtle than this bright yellowy mustard colour. And the thing about a sketchbook is that you can just do whatever you like, can't you? Like, you don't have to show anyone. I mean, I am showing you because obviously I love you dearly, but it's a place for me to experiment with my own colour preferences, and that's one of the things I really love about it. And it's just making art for the sake of making art and understanding more about the colour palettes and the colour combinations which feel exciting and pleasing and feel like they're my colour palette.